My project is called Invisible Burden because the problem I studied truly hides in plain sight. Indoor air pollution is one of the world's leading health risks, yet most people do not realize that the simple act of cooking exposes millions of women to dangerous levels of smoke every day. This project set out to measure that burden directly inside real kitchens with real women during real cooking. This slide shows something that is both ordinary and deeply unequal. For billions of people, cooking begins by striking a match to kerosene, charcoal, or firewood. The image is familiar, but the consequences are not. These fuels sit on the lowest rungs of the energy ladder, meaning they release the most smoke, the most particulates, and the most harmful emissions. Women, who do most of the cooking, stand closest to the fire. Children, who often play near their mothers, breathe the same air. With support from Rotary International and the United Nations Environment Program, I was able to study households in Mumbai where these conditions are still common. This slide captures the global reality that gave rise to our fieldwork. Here we see the global pattern. Countries where nearly everyone uses clean cooking fuels have almost no deaths from indoor air pollution. Countries where fewer than half have access can see up to 20% of deaths linked to cooking smoke. This tells us that clean cooking is not a luxury. This slide provides the backdrop that makes a local study in Mumbai both urgent and meaningful. This slide walks through how we created our framework. We used systematic random sampling across 3 low-income Mumbai communities. We enrolled 120 women who were the primary cooks in their homes. We placed air quality monitors 1.5 meters from where they actually cooked. We collected morning and evening data across 5 consecutive days. Nothing here was hypothetical. Every number came from real cooking sessions, real smoke, and real exposure. We also gathered health assessments, respiratory screenings, and socioeconomic information so that we could understand the full picture of each woman's reality. On this slide, you see the structure behind the numbers. It was a cross-sectional study with 60 biomass-using households and 60 LPG-using households. We used validated instruments, the Air Visual Pro for PM2.5, the Temtop M2000 for carbon monoxide, a spirometer for lung function, and a point-of-care hemoglobin device. By listing them here, the slide shows that this project wasn't just observational. It followed scientific standards that ensured accuracy. This slide shows the first major result. Biomass kitchens averaged 472 micrograms of PM2.5 during cooking. LPG kitchens averaged 43. The health guideline is 5. That means the women cooking with biomass were breathing air 94 times higher than what is considered safe. These were not occasional peaks. These were consistent cooking period averages across 5 days. When you see these numbers side by side on the slide, it is hard to ignore just how different the environments are. Here, the health picture comes into focus. 64% of biomass users had chronic cough. Only 14% of LPG users did. Anemia rates were 78% for biomass users and 18% for LPG users. And 1 in 4 biomass users showed early COPD symptoms at a mean age of just 32. Seeing these numbers lined up on the slide shows the scale of harm. The smoke from everyday cooking is reshaping women's lungs, their blood levels, and their long-term health. This slide highlights something many people never think about: the time spent collecting fuel. Biomass users spent 24.5 hours a week gathering food or waste materials. Over a year, that becomes equivalent to 1,200 hours of work, which is about 30 work weeks. This slide also notes that 38% experienced safety incidents during collection. These numbers remind us that the burden is not only medical, it is also time, safety, and lost opportunity. This slide shows how fuel type shapes education and employment. Only 28% of biomass users completed secondary school, compared with 63% of LPG users. 19% of biomass users held paid jobs, compared with 44% of LPG users. The adjusted odds ratios on the slide show that even after accounting for age, income, and education, LPG users had far higher chances of staying in school and entering the workforce. Clean fuel doesn't just change health, it changes life paths. This slide brings the crisis into one place: health, time, safety, education, income. Each category shows strong differences between biomass and LPG households. The phrase on the slide captures it simply. Household energy poverty creates a systematic gendered burden. The data shows that this burden falls hardest on the women whose lives, bodies, and time are shaped by the need to cook with smoke. To show that our findings fit into a larger scientific picture, this slide highlights external research. Other symptoms find higher respiratory outcomes, higher hyperextension, and higher rates of eye irritation among women using biomass. This reinforces what we saw in Mumbai is part of a broader global pattern. The smoke affects lungs, it affects the heart, it even affects vision. The problem is not isolated, it is consistent across countries. This slide is the cleanest snapshot of all. Side by side, biomass and LPG differ across every dimension. 11 times higher PM 2.5, 4 times more chronic cough, more anemia, more COPD symptoms, 20 times the fuel collection time, lower education, lower employment, more safety incidents. When you look at the two columns on the slide, you can see exactly how energy poverty maps onto health, time, and opportunity. This slide zooms out to the global scale. Clean cooking for everyone would cost $8 billion a year. The world is already losing $2.4 trillion a year from health impacts, climate damage, and lost productivity. The slide shows how small the investment is compared to the cost of doing nothing. It makes the case that failing to invest is both expensive and unjust. This final slide brings us back to the women who opened their homes to us. Many of them viewed their symptoms as normal. Chronic cough felt normal. Breathlessness felt normal. Losing half their working year to collect fuel felt normal. But the data shows it does not have to be this way. Clean cooking changes health. It frees time. It expands educational and economic options. It supports dignity and safety. The invisible burden becomes visible when we measure it, and once we see it, we can act. Thank you.